We are energy that gets compressed and compressed and compressed and compressed and becomes human form. And we are sound, vibration, and light. That's what we're made of. So that when we are ill, just like the quote you read, and there is disharmony in our body, we can experience dis-ease, right? Yes. And tuning the body, and music is something that can do for us what no pill can do for us.
Hey friends, welcome to The Good Life with Michele Lamoureux, a show for women in midlife who want to live happier, healthier, and more meaningful lives. I'm your host, Michele Lamoureux, a self-love coach and the author of Design a Life You Love. And together we're going to be doing just that. Each week I bring on world-class experts, best-selling authors, leading entrepreneurs, and also do solo casts with the intention of inviting you to get connected to what you really desire from your life. This show is produced with love every week. There's inspiration and actionable tips in every episode because I want to see women playing a starring role in their lives instead of living on the sidelines. Be sure to join the Good Life Community newsletter over at thegoodlifecoach.com for more inspiration and tips to live your best midlife. And make sure you're following the show on your favorite podcast player. I'm so glad that you're here. Hey friends, welcome back to the show. Today we're learning about the healing power of crystalline singing bowls. So if you've ever attended a sound bath, then I think you're going to love this conversation. And if this concept is new to you, it is to me as well. But it's one I've wanted to explore, the power and the ability of sound to actually heal us as energetic beings. Joining us today is Jeralyn Glass, who's an internationally acclaimed singer, musician, and leader in the field of sound healing, who has been sharing the gift of music medicine with the world for decades. Merging quantum science, bioenergetics, and crystalline singing bowls, Jeralyn helps people facilitate healing and transformation with the power of music and sacred frequencies that nourish our bodies, connect us with our hearts, and awaken our consciousness. She's the author of the new book, Sacred Vibrations, The Transformative Power of Crystalline Sound and Music. And that's what she's on to discuss today. She actually plays some of her crystal bowls on this episode. Just a heads up, it's very powerful and beautiful. I hope the sound translates well over audio, but I think you're going to love this conversation. If you've yet to sign up for my newsletter, I welcome you to join the community over at thegoodlifecoach.com or right now on your podcast player, where all of the links for today's interview will be shared. On that note, let's get into the show. Here we go. I am new to all of this, sound healing, music healing, but it makes sense to me. And I'm so excited to learn more. I had on the authors of this is your Brain on Art, who run NeuroArts. And I saw in your book that you're connected with the NeuroArts Blueprint Initiative, like you're doing a collaboration. And I was like, oh, how funny, because when they came on, we talked arts broadly, wonder, all the different ways, but they had talked about researchers doing sound healing and how sound is going to be the future for healing. And one of the authors even said something like, it'll be your vitamin every day. You'll have your unique code of sounds, and that will be your daily vitamin. And I'm like, this is fascinating, but I don't know enough about it. And then I got a pitch from the publisher, and I was like, oh, this is synchronicity, because I literally was asking, like, how am I going to cover this on the show? I don't know enough about it. And then I just said yes. So welcome. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you so much, Michele, for the invitation. Yes, sound is really, it's not just the medicine of the future, it's now. And what we're seeing in the world and what we're seeing in our work is pretty phenomenal, what I've seen in my own self.
Well, I want to understand more of that. I know that you even wrote in the book, each celestial body, in fact, each and every atom produces a particular sound on account of its movement, its rhythm, or vibration. All these sounds and vibrations form a universal harmony in which each element, while having its own function and character, contributes to the whole. That was Pythagoras, 569 to 475 BC. So there's also, you said it's the now, and also you talk about in the book, it's been around since the dawn of time. Is that true?
Yes. I mean, if you think about how we love music, and everybody has their own particular kind of music that they love, or different kinds of music that they love. And every culture since the beginning of time, whether it's the ancient Aborigines and their yadakis or didgeridoos at that time, or ancient India with mantra, or the shamans of South America using their rattles and their drums, every culture has used, ancient Egypt has used music as, I'm going to say, as a medicine, as a medicine for the people, as a modality that gathers us together, that connects us heart to heart. Music is that language that's universal, that has no words. It doesn't need to have words. It's sound, and you can get me going, because quantum science has really proven that everything is energy. We all have heard this kind of talk now, that everything is energy, and that we are energy that gets compressed and compressed and compressed and compressed and becomes human form. And we are sound, vibration, and light. That's what we're made of. So that when we are ill, just like the quote you read, and there is disharmony in our body, we can experience dis-ease, right?
Yes.
And tuning the body, and music is something that can do for us what no pill can do for us.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting because as you say that, I'm thinking about in religions, there's always singing. I'm Christian, but like when you go to the church, there's the chorus, and with part of the prayer is, the priest sings. He lifts his voice up to God. And, other cultures, they have women who, minister and do their thing, but all religions have music and, as part of their prayers. And that vibration of connecting us back to our humanity and our truth, right?
It's so important, especially in the world right now, where there's so much conflict and heightened emotions, and I have found more and more that music, whether it is that I listen to a concert, whether I participate in singing kirtan, whether I'm just saying my own prayers and toning amen, or whatever it is, but however, if we're dancing to music, it brings us back to a state of unity and peace. It's really a balm. It's a balm for us on all levels of our being.
I love that word, that it's a balm. Is that what made you write this book now? Is that part of the offering? Tell us more about what inspired that.
Right. Thank you for asking. Well, I think I have been a musician all my professional life, so I never had a plan B. I've never done anything else. I've been blessed to be in music from the time I'm 19, and I started in My Fair Lady, the 25th anniversary revival with Rex Harrison on Broadway. I was the youngest in the cast, and it was such an exciting time. I did Jesus Christ Superstar, I did Showboat, so I did various Camelot, various musicals, and then I went into classical music. And that was a whole different, I'm going to say, a kind of expansion in a way, because there I had to really recognize I am what I'll say now, a crystalline vessel of sound. So we know now that our blood has crystals in its structure. Our pineal gland has crystal in its structure, our bones. And so I can say now, like, as this crystalline vessel, I had to project my voice in classical music, sometimes over 100-piece orchestra in a 3,000 seat theater without any amplification. Wow. So I learned what that means to allow these two tiny vocal cords and this body to vibrate and project like that. Wow. So I think, yeah.
And you feel it. I mean, that's why we go and seek out music when we're sad or when we're happy, whether we're dancing because we're happy or we're dancing to like move energy out, or listening to music, or playing that favorite song, even it's making us cry because it helps heal. I love the idea of the crystal being part of our DNA. I didn't know that until I read your book.
Yeah. And so I think music for me has been my life. I've understood in a way how important that is, and that how music can be a transmission of light, a transmission of divinity, of goodness. Music can have that intentional power. So 18 years ago, I discovered the crystal singing bowls, and I heard them. I was traveling with my mom. I had been living in Germany at the time, really enjoying a wonderful career in classical music and raising my son, and who at that time was 7. And I said to my mom, I need to purchase some of these bowls because they had this sound that I'd never heard. I loved the Himalayan singing bowls, the metal singing bowls, and I would use those like on my belly before performances. I'd play them and I'd meditate with them and tone with them, but I had never heard the crystal singing bowls. And there was kind of this really pristine, as you just heard, it's almost what I always say about the sound of these. They're ineffable. They take us into the place of the ineffable. There's no real words for the pristine, exquisite quality of the crystalline sounds. So I brought 7 of them home to Germany where I was living and started to play them for my students, my family, my friends, and people had really strong reactions to them. And that started this path that, fast forward now, 9 years ago, I lost my beloved son. He was 9 years old, and music and energy medicine and the sound of the crystal bowls became my way through the grief. And it wasn't planned. I explored how sound, because if you can imagine, as a parent, when you lose a child, in a sense, we say when you lose a parent, it's the expected order of things, and you feel like you lose your past or your history. And when you lose a partner, you feel like you lose your present. But when it's a child, it's like your whole future is shifted.
Yes.
And what I've come to discover through sound is that my son and myself, we are incredibly connected for always through sound vibration. And he says to me, Mom, you haven't lost your future. We just have a different future. And so the whole idea of creating the book and writing the book really was born very organically as I began to use the bowls to help me create a safe container to breathe and feel what I deemed was unfeelable. Like, how do you feel the shock of death or tragedy, whatever we have in our lives, illness? How do you really feel that? You just want to do that, like just push it away. And a number of doctors asked me to go on antidepressants, and I knew that wasn't my way, because I understood somehow that if I chose that, I wouldn't be able to feel. And somehow I knew that if I couldn't feel it, I couldn't ever heal it.
Yes. That makes so much sense to me. What's interesting about your book, so we're learning about the healing power of sound and the music and the power of the vibrations, but there was another theme weaved in subtly throughout, which was the interconnection. It was that connection with your son, who was a part of every chapter and guiding along. I'm going to get a little emotional, Jeralyn, because it was so beautiful. So it was like just reminding us of, like, there's so much more. And so that thread was through the whole book of, like, the wonder of life, and that we are connected beyond what we can see. There was so much magic. It was the magic and the miracles of life too, if you're open to it. Have you always been open to it? Because just when I was reading the book, I was like, wow, how did she come to this place where you could find him again, and have that peace and hear him?
It's so interesting, Michelle. I mean, as a child, I had a very strong connection to God, what I felt was something very loving and protective and filled with light that was bigger than me. So I had a sense of always being connected to something that was, I named God as a child, and was love, and it was faith, and it was light. And that developed throughout my life, and I taught that to my son, and we would pray together. We would do meditations together. When I got the bowls when he was 7, I'd bring him to bed and with the sounds of the bowls, and we'd say our prayers, and we'd make little affirmations, and he'd say, Mommy, bring me to bed with my sound blanket. And sometimes I'd put one on his tummy, and he'd say, I love my sound tickles. So he knew those bowls really well. And on the night that he died, I walked down to the ocean. I live in Los Angeles, and I just needed the comfort of nature. And we spent much of his life together out in nature because he grew up in Germany. So we were up in the Alps and he loved skiing. We were doing hiking. We traveled the world in many different places, and nature was a big part of our life. And so I stood under the stars that night trying to grapple with what had happened. As we all know, like in that instant of death, it's finished. In this physical plane, it's finished. And yet that night, I saw a huge shooting star that I've never seen in Los Angeles, not in the city, it's too bright. And it had this huge like arc that seemed to begin over my parents' home, cross the LA basin and land in the mountains behind LA. And I could hear like a whoosh, and I could hear his voice in my right ear, "Mom, it's like we always talked about. I'm home. I'm with God." And he was referring to those times as a child when we would pray together and play with the bulls. But Michelle, I mean, that was the beginning where, if you can imagine, you're just in shock and grief. And it's like, wait, did I just, no, wait, stop. Right. But that began this wondrous communication that, what I recognized along this journey, he's with me now. He's so present. And what I recognized is that the sound has always been a bridge. As I said, like before performances, I would pray to be a pure vessel so that light could come through me, no matter if I was singing Mozart or Gershwin or whatever it was. I understood that this vessel could transmit light and love and hope and healing to people. And so on that night, to start feeling this connection with him, and then to begin through the process of these 9 years of understanding we are never separated. We are eternal beings. And as much as a mom, you want your child that you can hold them and squeeze them and laugh with them and watch them grow and all the things that they'll experience in their life, we have a different relationship, and it is eternal, and it's based on sound vibration and energy. And this bridge of sound helping us to feel and understand the bigger picture of who we are, and this is much more on the spiritual level, however you want to say it. I wanted the book to be, here's the history of sound. Here's the techniques of the bowls. This is what they do and can do. This is the responses I've had from cancer patients, from veterans. So there's all kinds of stories, as you know, within the book. But then there's this aspect of, I'd say to my Mom, I mean, what has happened to me? I'm a classical musician. I'm playing these crystal singing bowls, and I'm talking to my son on the other side. Like, boom, I must have lost it, because it was just like, how do you put that together? And she'd say, no, dear, just trust it. You're helping so many people. And the decision to share what I call these miracles of communication throughout the book is a really important thread, because I think it's possible for all of us. And whether you connect to a loved one, or whether you connect to this, as you asked me the original question, to this bigger picture that we can call a higher power or divinity or God or the cosmos or universal intelligence, whatever we want to name it, it's that sound can open us, to expand us, to have a broader, bigger feeling and picture of who we are as human beings. We're actually light and spirit being human. But we don't normally think like that.
Absolutely. I've had goosebumps literally since we started. It's so profound what you're saying, and it's so important. And I've experienced miracles in my life. So I'm grateful for those experiences, because I come back to that when there's hard times. It's like, there is magic, there is awe, there are miracles, there's a purpose and a path, and it's easy to let the thinking mind want to just control, and, it wants to control, right? It wants a sense of safety. And what you're talking about with the music and your experiences, it's expansion. Like, there's just a sense of like the universe, like it's just opening and allowing. And like you said, if you can heal it, feel it, you can heal it. And, you can't if you're always trying to just control and think about stuff, right?
Right, which is so much where we're oriented now. So that's why, talking about it as a medicine, I knew that if I numbed myself out to just try to get through the days,
yes,
that wouldn't be the answer for me personally. And I recognized on this journey with my son now in his spirit form, that when I would drop deep into grief, just like wailing and wailing, I couldn't find him, Michelle. And I began to understand, and then I would panic. It was just like, where is he? But when I worked consciously on uplifting, raising my vibrational frequency, using sound, using using sound of my own voice in combination with the bowls, I would uplift myself. I would, as you said so beautifully, the thinking mind with the volume would turn down because you're in the experience, the embodied experience of sound. And the volume would turn down, and I could then find him again. And then the miracles would increase, or the communication. I still call them miracles because I feel like for me, there's such a gift.
Yes.
And it really is available for all of us to find this kind of, as you said, from the neuro blueprint. And I felt so strongly. I was invited to play the bowls in Washington, D.C. in last December. And it was for the National Institutes of Health, the Renee Fleming Foundation, the Kennedy Center, and the National Endowment for the Arts sponsored it. And they had never, I was called as an illustrative performer. So they had never heard the Crystal Alchemy singing bowls. And I shared a little bit of the science. I showed some cymoscope images that show what the sound looks like. This is an instrument by John Stuart Reid from England, who also contributes to the book, because I feel this is really important that we see what is the image of a crystal bowl, what does it look like in water, and then to understand that perfect sacred geometrical form is exactly what's happening in the fluids of our bodies. Wow. So if you feel like, okay, we're 60 to 70% fluids, and as I'm playing those bowls or as I'm toning, the picture that the cymoscope illustrates is just a perfect sacred geometry that's happening in our bodies. So it was wonderful for me to present to scientists, leading researchers, medical doctors, and to really have this collaboration, which we all walked away from in December, just recognizing science needs to collaborate with musicians, needs to collaborate with artists, as you've heard. We need to collaborate together because this is an orchestra, and if the violin isn't playing in tune and the clarinet is like not following the notes or whatever, we don't have harmony. But if we're all working together in harmony, it's unlimited what we can create.
I love this.
I believe.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, this is so exciting. And we're going deep, which I love.
And I've come to learn through sound that, hello, there is a brain in the heart and there's also a brain in the gut. And this one is really running the show. But if I allow my intuitive brain, if I allow my gut feeling, if I allow the love that's in my brain, the wisdom of my heart, if I allow those also to speak, again, there's this gorgeous collaboration of something that's much bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
So to tell you exactly what it does, it will lower cortisol levels. So it will help to increase dopamine. It will help to build more leukocytes in the blood. So there are definitely physical and biochemical things that the sound does that has been proven. When we talk about work with veterans or cancer patients or hospice patients and their families, children, autism, Parkinson's. I had a Parkinson's patient in front of me, and her two daughters had brought her from another country to work together. And I watched in front of my eyes that as I took a bowl and ran it around her body, the whole shaking stopped. And then we did other kinds of exercises. I mean, we have seen miracles happen in so many ways. I'm thinking of 3 different women on 3 different occasions that all had mastectomies, that all expressed to me afterwards that they felt whole again, Michelle, that they felt that no part of them was missing. They felt like they were healed and whole once again, that the sound had, in essence, brought the energetic of their missing body part back. Wow. And to hear 3 different sound bath occasions, 3 different women all say the same thing was also for me phenomenal. And that brings us to the question, what is healing?
Yes.
What is wholeness? How do we heal?
Yeah. How would you answer that?
For me, it's been sound.
And sound.
So for me, it's been working with sound and energy and understanding, that this is not like my singing teacher used to say to me, Jeralyn, nothing vibrates here. Stop listening to yourself. And I was like, wait, I don't get it, and how do you know that I'm listening to myself? Because the quality of the sound changes. So when we're observing ourselves all the time, the quality of our lives change.
Yeah.
And she taught me what it meant to be present with my mind, but not to let it lead. So, and I think about one situation I played at a well-known medical wellness resort in Thailand for a number of years before COVID. And one of the guests was a high-powered executive from IBM that had come to de-stress, and they were teaching him meditation and different things. And he came to the sound bath, and afterwards he said to me, "What kind of voodoo did you do?" He was astonished, and he was explaining to me that whenever he goes into a meditative state, he's out, he goes to sleep.
Tired.
And he said,
yeah.
he said, "I was so present, but I wasn't thinking." He said, "I've never experienced that in my life." So I think sound gives us, again, will work as the years go on to really prove what kinds of things it's doing. But in the book are all kinds of anecdotal experiences of just different people, different ages, different situations, and what they've experienced through sound, what's possible. And I know from my own working with my own grief, which I thought would never lessen, Michelle, but what I would find was each time I would play the bowls, I would be able to weep and keen and groan in a way that I could not do when I was trying to talk about it in talk therapy. And I watched in the process as the joy returned to my face. The joy was in my eyes. There was light in my eyes. So I knew something was shifting, but it's like you kind of can't put your finger on it. But suddenly what I would notice is things didn't make me angry. Things didn't trigger me. I didn't cry at the drop of a hat. Like it was suddenly, okay, something's happening in my body. I'm healing. We don't know what's going to lead to suddenly entrain with that area of the body where the blockage is. And suddenly, like as you said earlier, you're listening to a song and you start crying and you don't know why.
Yeah.
This kind of music medicine, I think it's not about me figuring it out. It's not about us figuring it out. It's about working with the brain of our gut, working with the brain of our heart in collaboration with our regular brain, and just seeing where is it taking me? Because so much of what's buried in our subconscious from traumas and illnesses and experiences, we don't know where it sits.
Yeah.
And then suddenly we get a pain in the shoulder, or we get a pain in the low back, right? And actually that's indicating a blockage in the throat. I think this is what's so fascinating, that working with the singing bowls, they work on so many different levels because we have tunings, we have alchemies, we have notes, we have combinations of things. It's like the world it's as rich and complex as music is, and yet as simple as music is.
Okay, there's so much I want to unpack there. That's so beautiful. No, because my mind was like, oh my gosh, that's making me think. It's so good. It's so, so good. Yes. So you can't access your intuition and your higher knowing when you're afraid, right? You just can't. They don't sit in the same energetic space. You said about lifting your vibration earlier. So that's part of it. And like when you're talking about pain in the body, it needs a softening, it needs movement. And it seems like the vibration is like creates a recalibration, or like that maybe it like can shift things, and maybe it's not instantaneous, maybe it's gradual, right? And it becomes like a softening over time, like almost like a energetic vibrational massage for your soul, or those parts that are like holding. Our voices have their own unique signature, which I learned in your book, right? We have our own unique signature, just like our fingerprints, which is kind of beautiful to think about. And so we need to be embracing and using sound to get in resonance so that we can hear that intuition, so that we can come back to ourselves, right? And then act from that place. That's partially what I'm taking away. This is a much bigger conversation. Let's talk about chakras. Do the bowls align with the chakras? Is there a way to, I'm imagining, because there's a part in the book where you talk about chakras, and I think my audience will find this fascinating. Walk us through some of that.
Yeah, let me show you, because what we have here on the table, so just take a listen. corresponds to a chakra. But then you add the alchemy. So this one has amethyst in it. This one has a gold that's fired till it turns green. This one is the alchemy of Saint Germain. So you combine, well, what do those mean? And what do those crystals mean? So now we go definitely on a more esoteric level. What does amethyst do? And what does it do for you? What does the green gold do? Does it really open the heart? So again, this bowl being a sacral chakra note, a lower abdomen note, but suddenly the alchemy is working on my heart. This has taught me that nothing is ever one-to-one. There's always a bigger picture of things that is important that we can take that view. I recognized with my own grief that in the talk therapy, I was talking about it, but it didn't shift.
Yes.
But the second that I started to do this, something began to happen for me. And then back to Pythagoras, if I play the notes in certain orders, that gives me a sacred container. It creates stability. And suddenly you're like, wow.
It's like a hug. It's like a cosmic hug, Jeralyn.
Yes. You are so articulate. You know exactly how to describe
it's like
this
you feel
world.
embraced. I feel embraced right there. You feel so loved and safe. Like the energy it's like surrounding you in this way that you just feel at peace. It's so, I mean, how does somebody, well, there's so many things I want to ask you about. So you were singing, you started incorporating the singing bowls into your work. When you were traveling around the world, are certain cultures just more open? Like, what do you find like in the United States, or is it more of state of mind versus location in terms of receptivity?
Do you mean about the bowls themselves?
Yeah, people being open to just understanding or embracing this concept, because there's so much, this is profound. I mean, it's sound, right? And in the beginning, right? Like it was an explosion. Like it makes so much sense to me. It just makes sense, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, being a musician all my life and knowing what it is to have sound run through my body, especially as a classical singer.
Yes.
I think prepared me. And the more I understand, the more I understand, my son and myself, we had a soul contract. And, it was said to me by a psychic a few weeks after he passed that she said to me, he was never going to live a long life. And every hair stood on end. And it was like, wait, what? And somehow I knew that was the truth of what she said, that she said, you had a soul contract. And whether he died at 19 or whether he died at 22, he was never going to live beyond that. And it made me recognize just the whole bigger picture of, again, this has been now years of processing, but why me a musician? Why did I know at an early age that was the path I was going to go on? Why did I have parents that really supported and never discouraged me following my dreams? Why did I get on Broadway so quickly? Why did all that happen? Then moved into the opera world also just easily, seamlessly, so quickly, got my first contracts. Why did all those things happen? And I understand now at this age, they were preparation for this work now.
Yeah.
And it's like as a young singer, when you dream about, I want to be on Broadway, I want to be an opera star, whatever, the things that you dream about. How can you ever imagine that what happened in my life is going to happen? And then how was I able, with my son's support? Like he has me, and that's what's been a joy to write about in the book. Like everything that's happened, it's like, Mom, like, get it. There's a bigger picture and I'm not gone. So I think to be able to give people this idea that if you can take and embrace everything that happens in your life, and you can understand, I have a soul contract. I have a life contract. There's a plan for my life. Yeah. I need to say yes to certain things. And when I think about it as a singer, I write in the book starts, as you know, with a jump in, meaning that a colleague got sick and I was called at the last minute to jump in and sing for her. And it was a New Year's Eve concert at the Munich Philharmonic. So it was huge. And there was no time to think about it and think like, Jeralyn, are you good enough? And are you ready for this? And no, it was like, we have to jump in. And that moment for me, that concert was so pivotal in my understanding of what it means to embody, what it means to say yes, what it means to show up for yourself. And that when you show up for yourself, you're showing up to be the light, and that light affects so many other people. And I think this kind of thread of, hey, there's a bigger picture. So when I play you that low note, I'm helping you to ground below your feet, at what we call the Earth Star chakra, so that you recognize, hey, I can be stable no matter what's happening in my life. And when I play that high note that's above the crown, it's like, whoa, there is light and I'm a part of that. And there is a soul and a life purpose. And I've got to be big enough in my being to see I'm not a victim of anything.
Yeah.
I need to be able to transmute and transform. And Michelle, there's no pill that will help us transmute and transform, at least in my experience. Somebody else might say, hey, Jeralyn, these really help me. But for me, sound became that medicine that was like what you just said. There's so much cosmic energy, or how did you put it? It's just so big and expansive. And we find ourselves present as part of that. That's the thing that is like, that's how healing for me happened.
Mm. And
Does that make sense?
Yes, we are made of stardust. We are all connected energetically, right? And the sound is like, it can travel space and time, right? It's what unites us. It makes it, like I said, it just makes so much sense to me.
It brings us together, and the power of sound and energy and music is the focus of the app. It's called Source. So you can get it at, where you download
at the Apple Store. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be releasing mid-June.
The whole thing gets me excited.
I think this is more and more what's important for me is this collaboration. We have also a members portal. So people that are interested, but don't necessarily want to play the bowls, but want to learn more about them regularly with me. It meets live once a month. And then there's interviews, private interviews, and meditations that you get inside the portal membership. So that's something that we offer. We have this beautiful card deck that released last year with Hay House.
It's called Crystal Sound Healing Oracle Deck.
Yeah. And
I'm reading it from the box. Yeah. Oh, they're really beautiful. And they have the little code on there. And tell us what the code takes you to, Jeralyn.
So let's say that I choose this particular card.
What does it say on there? I can't read it.
It is this is ruby. So this is the alchemy of ruby. Yes. But then it'll take you to the description in the book about what that means, and then the QR code takes you to the sound of the bowl. So it's the first interactive card deck of its kind. And again, that was the idea that my son kept encouraging, like, Mom, we want to be able to have sound available to everybody, because not everybody wants to be a bowl player. It's not necessary.
Right. Yeah, they may just want to experience the sound baths and the healing and be the recipient of that. Like, I could see that as a place that a lot of people might be curious to start. In the book you write, and now I invite you to consider the question, what is my vision for myself? How do I embrace my past and create my present and my desired future? If you are not already doing so, can you now imagine expressing your unique vibrational signature and true purpose, living your life fully present, inspired, abundant, and fulfilled? We talk a lot about purpose on this show. So this would be a beautiful place to end, is just like, help us understand through your lens, like, how can we use these questions to awaken to our purpose? Like and using sound, like, what could we play with? Somebody's listening today and was like, I feel inspired to learn more. Like, what can we do to connect to our purpose?
That's such a great question. And that's such an individual journey for everybody. But I think that's partly the reason for the YouTube channel or for this members portal. Like, once again, you might like the combination of bowls that I played here. You might like a different combination. So every single set on that YouTube channel is different.
Yeah.
And it's like finding what resonates with me today. Sometimes, as we were talking about, we don't know what the blockage is. We just know that there's either a clamping down or a fear or a concern or a worry. And it's not that we have to identify what it is. And I think that's what the sound has helped me so much, is that I don't have to name it.
Yeah.
I just have to be willing to feel it. And the woman who wrote the foreword, Dr. Sue Morter, if you don't know her work, just incredible. She has been a guide and a mentor on this journey. And, if she has taught me so much about bioenergetics and what does it mean? Like, where do I feel it in my body? It's what I said earlier. So do I feel a pain in my low back? Do I feel a blockage in my throat? And when we work with those areas of our body, what we're going to discover is suddenly, it's like in my path becoming what I'm doing now. I didn't plan it. I couldn't have made a business plan. I couldn't have planned what that was. It was like, I need to be able to walk through grief with integrity. I need to be able to walk through grief grounded. I need help, right? I need help. And just talking about it's not going to help me feel it and go through it. I had to go into those places of, it's not just my heart that hurts. My whole legs hurt, or my neck hurts, or my belly hurts. And okay, if I go in there and I breathe into, like talking about breath work, and I breathe, or however you work with sound, however you work, and everybody does it a little bit differently.
Yes.
But I go into those places of my body. I listen to the recordings on YouTube. So that's exactly why I made two 2-hour loops. So they're different sets of bowls, but the loop runs for 2 hours so that you could sit with that sound and you can breathe and you can feel, you can tone with it, you can pray to it, you can meditate, whatever, again, is to understand that for everybody, it's going to be different. And when we can go in those places and have them move, because pain is stuck energy. I think pain is buried energies.
Yes.
Then we begin to open and our purpose becomes more and more clear. Like I realize in my life now, I just get an impulse and it's like I follow it because I can hear my intuition very clearly, for many, many things in life. And I think that's a big part of our purpose. Do we feel our hearts? Do we feel the wisdom of the heart? Do we feel the wisdom of the belly? Can we act upon that? Can sound help to quiet this so that we can hear the rest of our wisdom more clearly and then take action? And I think that's definitely really related to your life purpose, your purpose. What's the bigger picture of why you're here? Why are you carrying the things you're carrying in your life? And how can we know that those are all really working to tune us? They're working to make us the most perfect, beautiful, crystalline instrument that we can be.
We're going to have to maybe do a part 2, Jeralyn, because I know you have another interview now. I'm going to list in the show notes, ladies, over at thegoodlifecoach.com and on the podcast player, all of the links where you can access Jeralyn's work, the app, like everything she's talked about, the book, that we'll just link it all. It'll all be in the show notes. I just want to, from my heart to yours, you're such a beautiful energy, and it's fascinating to me. And maybe you will come back if you've got time. I'd love to explore this further. But in the meantime, check out everything Jeralyn's doing and open to the power of sound and explore this, because this is like part of such a bigger conversation on healing and the possibility with what sound and vibration can do for all of us. So, Jeralyn, is there anything you want to leave the women listening with? And for you, it could be playing the bowls, or it could be something you want to say, and then maybe you can give the audience an experience of being with the bowls before we sign off.
So I invite you to pre-order your book now, and you can go to our website, Crystal Cadence, and there's a book landing page there, and then you can sign up and you'll receive some different gifts. So I've created some meditations for you, and there'll be a live webinar on book release day with Dr. Sue Morter. So we'll be speaking about the power of energy medicine, bioenergetics in combination with sound. And I invite you to do that so you can be a part of that. And if you can't join us live for that, then there'll be a replay. You'll get a copy of that.
And what's that URL? What's that website?
The website is crystalcadence.com.
Perfect.
And then there's a section on Sacred Vibrations, the book.
Perfect. And all of that will be linked in the show notes over at thegoodlifecoach.com or on your podcast player. You can find it right on your app.
One other thing that I've really learned through this whole process is that sound in combination with intention can equal transformation. And one of my sound mentors is Jonathan Goldman, who's been a pioneer in this field. And he's also generously contributed to some of the sound wisdom in the book. He has a formula that says frequency plus intent equals healing. So I'd like you all to invite you all. I'm going to play a short meditation to just come up with an intention. What is it you would like? Is there anything that's you feel is blocking you now, blocking the opening of your purpose, your abundance, your physical health, whatever it may be? I'm going to invite you to set an intention, and I'll fill you with some sacred sound.
Thank you.
I wish you all great peace. I wish you the sense of wholeness, a sense of really knowing that you are grounded light and love in this human form. What a joy. What a
Thank
joy
you
to be together.
Thank you so much, Jeralyn. Thank you. That was beautiful. Hey friend, I have one request before we sign off today. If you've gained any value from any of the interviews that you've tuned into, would you take just 1 minute and leave a 5-star rating and review over on Apple Podcasts? It's actually how more women can find the show, and I want to continue growing a community of women who are loving themselves and living full on. So thank you for all of your support, and I look forward to being back with you next week. Bye for now.
This podcast is presented for entertainment and educational purposes only. Any information provided is not intended to be a substitute for medical, mental health, or other professional advice. Seek out your trusted healthcare provider or other qualified professional for all matters dealing with your health and well-being. Any opinions or information provided by a guest are their own and not those of Michele Lamoureux or the company.